lot of this stuff, not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time. And you think,
that's Mel Gibson, talking about Hollywood, talking about the parties, the private events, the things he saw in rooms most people will never enter.
I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded, literally. Didn't even know it.
That's Corey Feldman, describing the people who attended those same parties, the ones who smiled for the cameras and did something else when the cameras turned off.
Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is.
Cat Williams exposing the pattern, the initiation, the price of entry. But here's what nobody is connecting. Mel Gibson didn't just attend Hollywood's most exclusive private parties for decades. He studied them, he survived them, and now he's finally talking about what really happens when the doors close, the cameras stop rolling, and the real business begins. Most people think Hollywood parties are just about champagne, red carpets, and A-list mingling, networking, celebrating, power socializing. But according to what Mel Gibson has been hinting at for over 30 years, there's a side to these gatherings that rarely, if ever, gets talked about publicly. Not everything is as glamorous as it looks, and once you hear what he noticed, what he experienced, and what he reported to police in 1993, you might start looking at Hollywood's private party circuit very, very differently. Because the Epstein files didn't just expose flight logs and island visits. They exposed events, private dinners, exclusive gatherings, parties where the guest list read like a who's who of global power. And Mel Gibson, he was in those rooms. He saw the mechanisms. He watched how people were compromised, manipulated, and controlled, all under the cover of celebration. So let's talk about what really happens at Hollywood's private parties and why Mel Gibson has spent 3 decades trying to warn us. Let's go back to the beginning, mid-1980s. Mel Gibson is a rising star. He's fresh off Mad Max and The Year of Living Dangerously. Hollywood wants him, and Hollywood invites him in.
came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
That's the key line. Nobody was really bothering to explain it. Because at these parties, at these private events, you're not told how things work. You're shown, you're tested, you're invited into rooms, you're introduced to people, you're offered things. And your reaction determines whether you're brought deeper into the circle or quietly kept at arm's length. Mel described the experience like this.
You're off the boat, from the farm, still got shit on your shoes. You're in here. People are charmed by that you've still got shit on your shoes. They're charmed by the fresh approach you bring to it, and that's a real thing. But they're also stroking the shit out of you, you know, licking you all over. And that's...
Licking you all over. That's not a metaphor for flattery. That's a description of grooming. That's how predators operate. They make you feel special. They make you feel chosen. They make you feel like you're finally being let into the inner sanctum. And once you feel that, once you start craving that validation, that's when they introduce you to the real business. Mel said it himself.
It doesn't take very long before you realize, or before it gets to you. It's cascading on you all the time. You can't get away from certain attitudes, from certain modes of behavior that this town and the industry dictate. And no matter how strong you are, when you come in off the farm with those convictions and a certain line of attack, no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this place. It's going to divert you from where you were going.
Sure.
Diverted. Not corrupted, not destroyed, diverted. Because that's what these private parties do. They divert you from your original path. They shift your moral compass. They normalize behavior that would horrify you anywhere else in the world. And Mel? He started noticing the pattern early. So what exactly happens at these events? Let's piece it together from what Mel has said, what Corey Feldman revealed, what Cat Williams exposed, and what the Epstein files have now confirmed. First, the guest list is carefully curated. These aren't random celebrity mixers. Every person in that room is there for a reason. You've got the power players, studio heads, financiers, talent agents. You've got the political connections, senators, foreign dignitaries, people with legislative reach. You've got the talent, actors, musicians, models. And then you've got the special guests, the young ones, the fresh faces, the people who are being introduced to the machine. Mel watched this happen over and over again.
And I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be. Because a whole place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go to the house on the hill. And it's like...
But it was like that, and the house on the hill wasn't a metaphor. It was real. It was the private estates, the gated mansions, the places where the real parties happened after the public events ended. Second, the rituals. Cat Williams talked about this extensively, and once you hear it, you can't unsee it. When I talk about guys wearing dresses in Hollywood, everybody is like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, look at it from a different way. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. Humiliation rituals, submission tests, public performances designed to show that you're willing to do anything for success. And it's not just about dresses. It's about compromising photos. It's about being recorded in vulnerable situations. It's about creating leverage. Because once you've participated in the ritual, once you've been photographed, once you've been filmed, you're in. You're controllable. You're manageable. And if you ever step out of line, that footage resurfaces. That photo leaks. That story gets told. Mel Gibson saw this system operating at these private parties, and he realized something terrifying.
And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think,
His worst nightmares were real. What does that mean? It means the things he suspected, the things he hoped weren't true, were confirmed at these parties, in these rooms, with these people. Now, here's where it gets even darker, because it wasn't just adults being compromised at these parties, it was children. Corey Feldman has been screaming this truth for decades, and every time he speaks, Hollywood tries to discredit him, silence him, or ignore him. But listen to what he said.
Oh yeah, I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded, literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures.
Surrounded by predators at 14 years old. Where was Corey at 14? He was at industry parties. He was at private dinners. He was being introduced to mentors and managers who promised to make his career. And Feldman wasn't alone.
That the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh yeah, not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah, I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old.
The casting couch for children. Let that sink in. That's not happening in back alleys. That's happening at parties, at private events, where powerful men introduce themselves to child actors, where auditions happen in private rooms, where parents are told to wait outside while their kid meets with a producer. Corey Feldman gave names to authorities, just like Mel Gibson did.
When I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record.
In 1993, the same year Mel Gibson sat down with law enforcement, the same year he named names. And what happened? Nothing. No arrests, no charges, no investigation. Why? Because the people Mel and Corey were naming weren't just attendees at these parties. They were hosts. They were financiers. They were protected. Now, let's connect this directly to Jeffrey Epstein, because Epstein's entire operation was built on one simple principle: use private events to compromise powerful people. The Epstein files that just dropped confirmed this in horrifying detail. There are photographs of Prince Andrew at private parties, Bill Clinton at intimate dinners, Naomi Campbell on yachts, Kevin Spacey at exclusive gatherings. But here's the key. These weren't just social events, these were leverage factories. Epstein invited people to his private island. He invited them to his Manhattan townhouse. He invited them to parties where the guest list included world leaders, Hollywood elites, and young women who had been recruited through modeling agencies, promise of career opportunities, and outright deception. And once you attended, once you were photographed, once you participated, you were in. You were compromised, you were controllable. The Epstein files revealed that Leslie Groff, Epstein's personal assistant, was referenced over 157,000 times. Why? Because she coordinated everything: the flights, the parties, the appointments. Richard Kahn, Epstein's accountant, was referenced over 52,000 times. He tracked every dollar that funded these events. Jean-Luc Brunel ran a modeling agency that funneled young women directly into Epstein's orbit and into these parties. This wasn't one man with a private jet. This was an operation with infrastructure, with staff, with logistics. And Mel Gibson's argument, the one he's been making for 30 years, is that Epstein didn't invent the system. He inherited it. Because Hollywood's private party circuit was already operating this way long before Epstein's name ever appeared in a flight log. So here's the question nobody has fully answered. What did Mel Gibson see at one of these parties that made him go to the police in 1993? We know he gave names. We know he sat down with the Santa Barbara Police Department. We know those names are on record, but we don't know what triggered that decision. Was it something he witnessed directly? Was it a conversation he overheard? Was it a young actor, someone like Corey Feldman or Corey Haim, confiding in him about what had happened? Mel has never said explicitly, but he's hinted.
Whole industry. I mean, it's a very strange place, Hollywood. But it's an odd place. And you imagine all these horror stories there that you think, boy, it seems as if I'm being sacrificed over here. No, that couldn't be true. And then you realize that it is true. And you have to, I just left for a while.
It seems like I'm being sacrificed. That's not language you use lately. That's someone describing a system designed to consume you, to take everything from you, to break you down until you're compliant. And Mel realized that's exactly what these parties were designed to do. So he left. He walked away. He bought a place in Australia, dug holes, built fences, worked with cattle, anything to get away from the machine. But Hollywood doesn't let you leave that easily, especially if you know too much. Let's talk about what happened in July 2006. Mel Gibson was pulled over for a DUI in Malibu. He said ugly things during the arrest. It was wrong. It was indefensible. But here's the thing. Hollywood has forgiven far worse from far more dangerous people. Roman Polanski drugged and assaulted a 13-year-old and still receives standing ovations at award shows. Woody Allen married his ex-partner's adopted daughter and continues making films with A-list actors. But Mel Gibson made offensive comments during a traffic stop, and his career was destroyed within 48 hours. Why? Because Mel Gibson wasn't just a celebrity who screwed up. He was someone who had gone to the police in 1993, someone who had named names, someone who had seen what happened at those private parties and refused to play along. The 2006 DUI wasn't the reason Mel was blacklisted. It was the excuse. The industry had been waiting for a moment like that, a moment when they could publicly execute someone who knew too much, someone who had stepped outside the mutual protection system, and they made an example out of him. But here's what Hollywood didn't count on. Mel Gibson didn't stay silent. He just changed his medium. Look at the films he's made since The Blacklist. The Passion of the Christ, 2004, a film about sacrifice, betrayal, and institutional evil. Hollywood tried to kill it. It made over $600 million worldwide. Sound of Freedom, 2023. Mel publicly endorsed this film about child trafficking, modeling scouts, and elite networks. Major streaming platforms refused to promote it. It made $250 million on a $14.5 million budget. And now he's working on Hunting Season, a film about elite figures engaging in coordinated crimes among the ultra-rich. These aren't random projects. These are confessions. These are Mel's way of telling the public what he saw, what he experienced, what happens at those private parties that nobody talks about.
The most disturbing problems in our world today is human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children. Our future is our children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness.
Awareness. That's what Mel is doing. That's what he's been doing for 30 years. He's trying to make people aware that the parties, the events, the private gatherings, they're not what they seem. They're recruitment grounds. They're compromise zones. They're where the machine decides who gets elevated and who gets destroyed. And now, in January 2025, the Epstein files dropped. Over 3 million pages. And guess what they confirmed? Everything Mel Gibson, Corey Feldman, and Cat Williams have been saying. Private parties, exclusive events, carefully curated guest lists, young women recruited through modeling agencies, powerful men photographed in compromising situations. A system designed to create leverage. The files revealed names like Bill Clinton, photographed at private events, invited Epstein to the White House, flew on the Lolita Express far more than previously reported, Prince Andrew, documented meetings, photos on yachts, Naomi Campbell, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, all photographed at Epstein's private gatherings. These people weren't just friends of Epstein, they were attendees. They were part of the circuit, the same circuit Mel Gibson was describing in the 1990s. And here's the most disturbing part. The Department of Justice removed certain files shortly after uploading them. Pages are heavily redacted. Names are blacked out. Who are they protecting? Who is still attending these parties? Who is still running the system? Because here's what Mel Gibson is saying now in 2025, after the files dropped, after the names surfaced, after everything he suspected was confirmed. The parties are still happening. The system is still running. The person or people who built this machine, who gave Epstein his access, who protected the operation for decades, are still out there.
There are things at play here. And institutions that purport to touch on the divine are necessarily going to be affected by that slugfest that's going on between good and evil.
Right.
And
sometimes good gives up ground.
Good gives up ground. That's what happened in Hollywood. That's what happened at these parties. That's what happened when Mel gave names in 1993 and nothing was done. Good gave up ground. But Mel hasn't given up. Corey Feldman hasn't given up. And now, with the Epstein files in the public domain, the rest of us can finally see what they've been trying to show us for 30 years. Hollywood's private parties aren't celebrations. They're transactions. They're where careers are made and souls are sold. They're where young actors meet their mentors. They're where compromising photographs are taken. They're where the leverage that controls the entire industry is created, cataloged, and deployed. And Mel Gibson hours? He was in those rooms. He saw it happen. He reported it, and he spent 30 years paying the price for refusing to stay silent. So the next time you see a celebrity gushing about an exclusive industry party, the next time you see a private event mentioned in a tabloid, the next time you hear about a young actor getting their big break after meeting someone at a party, ask yourself, what really happened in that room? Because Mel Gibson already knows the answer. And now so do you.
sacrifice aspect is alive and well in our society, I think.
It really is. It's just dressed up in a different way.
Dressed up in a different way. Like a party. Drop your thoughts below. And if you think the story is far from over, because it is, make sure you're subscribed. This is just the beginning.